Okay, good afternoon. This is my mom, Betty Cooper. I'm Lori NewBreast, and we're here today with Native Wellness Institute Power Hour. So we are going to do a share today. So, Mom, you want to greet the audience out there?
Yes. Good afternoon. And this is Betty Cooper coming to you from County, Montana on the Blackfeet Nation. And my Blackfeet name is Yellow Flower Woman, Yotskripitaki. And I'm an elder here on the reservation.
So today on the Power Hour, like technology, right? It's kind of like when we first got cars. So long time ago, youngins, the car only had a push button. So anyone who got in it just needed to push the button and it started. So as technology, so today also Charlie Tailfeathers, who's also a member of the Blackfoot Confederacy, was going to join us. Maybe, through the magic of something, he might. But he was video recorded, so I'm sure that will be on the Native Wellness Institute site. And so today we are really just going to share our thoughts about, and really our experiences, that we are in the human family is in a collective experience. So from our seat in the circle, what does that mean for us? And my mom, I asked her, we were kind of prepping, and we were going to say what we were going to share today. So I'd like my mom just to give a short introduction about what she's going to talk about in this next hour as we're having people join.
Yes, it's really important today. It's the 9th day of May, and tomorrow is Sunday the 10th, and it's Mother's Day, and I wanted to talk about the mother's role and the grandmother's role in all our family units, our family structure, but not leaving out anybody. I'd like to address that. I'd also like to tell about last year when I was the Montana Mother of the Year by the American Mothers Incorporated out of Washington, D.C., and I'll touch on that. But I'd also like to talk about how significant our buffalo has been for the return to our reservation and what we've done with it. And if there's more time, I'll tell you some more.
Okay, so I know people, it's Saturday morning, maybe people are just scratching their eyes open and all the time zones. But I'd also like to, I think during this time, now we're going on like 2 months, most of us. So we're approaching, the full moon was last night, and now the moon will start waning, which means it's a really good time to start letting those things go, or maybe saying what got me to the 60-day mark, or this 2 months of being, self-isolated. Because really, right now, the thing we still enjoy on the Blackfeet Reservation is our Tribal Council and our Homeland Security Department we've extended beyond the measures for the state of Montana. Because what we have is that genetic wisdom about us all arriving at the end of this. But I want to be mindful that during this time, some people don't have their family connections. Maybe prior to the pandemic, there was some breakdown in that. Maybe they were rejected from who they are now, living in, breathing air. And so I want to, on behalf of me and my mother, if you are estranged from your mother, or maybe she passed on, in our way, in the Blackfoot way, is adoption, or what they call adoption, is our tradition. It's our sacred tradition. So we adopt all of you out there as your mothers. or your aunties, whatever you feel comfortable. Even your grandpa, if that's what you feel comfortable. I'll be a grandpa, hey. Gender bending is part of our way of life. So please know that if you're watching today, we're thinking of you and we have now adopted you. So that love we'll speak with today is for you. No Indian left behind. And if you in any way need that reassurance, I do mean you. So I'm going to turn it over to my mom, and you might see me pop in and out because, like, what if I start, like, going like this when she's talking, right? So she's going to start. You heard what she was going to share, and so, Mom, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, this is really special for me to do and to be represented as an elder. But the Mother's Day Happy Mother's Day, and I also include all the family. And I like to say Happy Mother's Day to all our Blackfeet Nation mothers and grandmothers and the Blackfoot Confederacy territory, and to all of the Happy Mother's Day and to the mothers and grandmothers of the 8 tribal nations that are located here in Montana, but also to include the 574 nations on Turtle Island, to the mothers and the grandmothers. And I want to include the tribal nations that have not been recognized. And I want to just pause right here and say that that's not true. It's only the U.S. government that has not recognized you. We, as Native nations, have always recognized you. All your brothers and sisters recognize you. So to those tribes and tribal nations, I say Happy Mother's Day, and to the mothers and grandmothers. And I want to include all of the state of Montana, every mother, every grandmother, and all across the United States, every mother and grandmother, and all around the world, because this is our special day. And we have so much to share with each other. But I'm going to tell you a little Blackfeet story. Last year at the Sundance ceremony, I was honored as an elder by the Sundance leader to assist him in naming a woman and a man for their ceremonial name. And that was really an honor, and I had a couple days to think about it, and it was going to be on the 3rd day of the Sundance. And so this was a man and a wife, and they have children, and they were both sun dancers. Excuse me. And for the woman, I really thought a lot about her. I know her, and I know what a strong woman she is, a strong wife, mother, grandmother. And so I chose Charging Elk Woman. And the reason I did that is because a mother elk will protect her baby at any cost. And the mother elk can sense danger to her baby immediately, and she will charge that danger to protect her baby at any cost. And so that's Charging Elk Woman. And to the man, I chose his name, his ceremonial name, to be Sacred Elk Man. And the reason I did that is because this is a family unit, and this is, we're learning from the animal world. They teach us a lot. And the father elk protects and nurtures his family. And that is so good. And the bottom line of the story is that the family love, strength, and bond cannot be broken. And that's what I would like to close with. Happy Mother's Day to the mothers and grandmothers all over the world, especially in our native nations. And I'll move to the last year I was selected to be Montana Mother of the Year, and I was the first Native person, Indigenous person to be selected. They've always been non-Indians, but and that's good, and it was an honor. Our Blackfoot Tribal Business Council nominated me and honored me, and our Montana State Governor Steve Bullock nominated me and forwarded the nomination to Washington, D.C. to the American Mothers Incorporated, which was established in 1935 by Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady. And since then, they have been selecting from asking the 50 states to nominate Mother of the Year of that state. And so I traveled to Washington, D.C. by the help of all my children. My one daughter used her Sky Miles to fly me over there and fly me back. And my other daughter paid for my room. It was really expensive, and they all made me, my one daughter sewed me 4 ribbon skirts to wear while I was there. And my other daughter just helped prepare me, and my son. Those are my children, and that was mother of the Montana Mother of the Year. But while I was there, I knew that it was an honor for all our mothers and grandmothers, and I asked them to stand with me as I received my award for their wonderful, their unsung heroes. You know, I meet all these beautiful mothers and grandmothers every day of my life, and they're all doing such wonderful things with their children and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. But I felt that it was very appropriate that I wear my straight-up headdress, which I belong to the Blackfoot Confederacy Women's Society of the straight-up headdress. And I wore my traditional elk tooth dress, and that's how I appeared in Washington, D.C., and I spoke before Congress, and I asked Congress to please take a real close look at how families are surviving, the cost of living, and takes both parents, if there's both parents. You know, sometimes there's a single mom or a single dad, to be able to take care of their families and their home and their community. And anyway, I just asked them to really look at the severe lack of the minimum wage, especially in the state of Montana, to increase that, but to know that it's insufficient and that the cost of living has went sky high, and we're having, we're having to live with this minimum wage. But anyway, one of the highlights is my daughter Wanda was able to fly to Washington, D.C. and be with me. And we had what they call a gala, and it's a real big banquet. And all the U.S. military branch of services, the young servicemen, were our escorts into the banquet, and I had a handsome, young, tall, beautiful Marine escorted me to my table, you know, and that was really neat. Then I was awarded the Golden Rule Award, and it's compensation for whatever I desired for it to be. And it was $1,000, and I awarded it to the graduating class, young women in Browning, Montana High School and Hart Butte, Montana High School. And here we are with the coronavirus, you know, and I won't be able to do that because the graduation has been interrupted, but it will come, and I will give that. I especially want to give it to a young mother who is decided to go to college and better her life for her and her child or children, and I'll be doing that. But anyway, I'll turn that back over to Lori for a while.
So I think that one of my experiences throughout my life is that I share my mother. I'm not only with the siblings, but part of what she has done in her life is to help people wanting to heal. One of our young members of the family, and I've heard this over and over, I would say, you know, the last 30 years or 35 years, is how do you heal? What do you do? Like, it's, you know, you can't go get like the healing tablet off the drugstore. It's not next to the ibuprofen and the Tylenol. The pharmacy doesn't have it. Although physical healing is part of your holistic, your whole body healing. And so sometimes part of that is like the native principle of generosity. You know, everyone loves a giveaway. You know, please don't have a community event and not give away T-shirts. You know, like you're breaking some taboo. That's a taboo, not to have an event, and don't give Indians a T-shirt. But so when you're on your healing journey, you come to those points of what, you know, they say other things like, but as you're traveling around your healing hoop, you come to those days where you're saying, how do I heal? Where do I go from here? You know, you're tired of, you know, whatever lifestyle you've been living, or maybe the emotional, maybe you just can't hold the dam back of emotional feelings. And that comes to, like, sort of like what I've called it in my own journey, but what I've seen is I reparent, because sometimes our parents were not to be the best. They didn't have the right to be the best parent they could because of circumstances, and then sometimes children are left by the wayside, and part of their journey is parenting, reparenting themselves. So if you think about that, like, how are you parenting like your inner self today? And that includes all the ages you were. How are you reparenting yourself? Tomorrow, even if you're isolated in quarantine, I don't know, you gotta, you know, your donut tire went flat on the way to the feed. I don't know tomorrow. How are you going to parent yourself tomorrow? So there was early on, sometimes it's just doing the basics. Sometimes I was a hardcore youth worker, prevention worker. And sometimes this is the request I would get from parents. If you could get my kid to wash their neck, that's all they wanted from a prevention program, for their kid to wash their neck. And so sometimes it's simple as that. You clean your body, you clean your hair, you clean your clothes, you sleep, you get up, you drink water, you eat 3 times a day. Because often people shut down sometimes when they're on their healing journey, and they'll say, I don't feel hungry. And it might be they haven't ate anything for 12 hours. and that is part of it also. So you get a schedule. So your healing schedule takes care of those basic human things. You wake up, you get up, and you get going. And comb your hair, because I know people have been joking about shaggy heads during the pandemic, or during this isolation. You can have, if shaggy is your vibe, if that's your label, then go for it. But it's okay to comb your hair, you know. And sometimes in that act of reparenting yourself, it gets you to the next step. So there's also like a big question in that whole journey. How do you belong? How do you belong to yourself? And my mom ran, the first in the nation American Indian women with their children in treatment center in Oakland, California. And also she ran a culturally based alcohol treatment program. And a lot of it was teaching those parenting skills. How do you cook? How do you keep yourself clean? How do you give up cussing? Stuff like that. But I'd like my mom to share maybe about Casa de Fruta, and also about what it meant to have the ceremonies come into treatment for people, what that experience was like.
Thank you. Yeah, that Lori brought back. We treasure our memories, and we hold them close to our heart, because that is a big healing factor of those happy times, those good times. But she mentioned Casa de Fruta, and Gene Thinalk from the Sioux Nation and Rick Thomas from the Sioux Nation. They were and are Indian leaders, but they came to California, and we talked extensively of how the treatment program could be the leader in pulling together our community and addressing the alcohol and drugs abuse that just fragmented our families, destroyed and took our loved ones way before their time, all of that kinds of things. And so what we decided is that we would have a camp out, and it would be down in, from Oakland, it would be down in Santa Cruz, California. And we called it the Red Road to Recovery. And that it was a powwow, but it was also, we had AA meetings there in a teepee lodge, sometimes by the fire, sometimes by the sweat lodge. We had NA, because, for all time, and we could do a history on what drugs, heroin, and all of the LSD coming down today to methamphetamine and all of the drugs that they're taking, prescription drugs, illegal prescription drugs, black market. Well, we decided that we would have a 4-day camp out, and we would have, I also helped with some other my leaders, the running is my high, because instead of taking alcohol or drugs, you could run and your natural endorphins kick in, and you have a beautiful, beautiful high that nothing could match. No pharmaceutical company could ever come up with running as my high for a high. But we recognized all the people in their sobriety. On the third day of the 4-day encampment, we would have, we had the run every morning, 5K, 10K, and we had a walk, for all of those who couldn't run. And then we would move into the afternoon of having, recognizing everybody and giving them a ribbon and a medal if they had 1 hour of sobriety or 24 hours of sobriety. And we went all the way up to one lady was 72 years old, and she had 37 years of sobriety. And we cried with her, but we awarded her and recognized her. And that Red Road to Recovery was the Santa Cruz Indian Council was right behind us. They helped set up the camp, and we all joined together. And we had several treatment programs across California, and they all came with their residents or clients, or whatever they chose to call them. And we had everything for them, and it truly was a Red Road to Recovery. But I always have in my mind this image of Rick Thomas. He was in his traditional dance outfit, and he had this eagle staff. And him and Gene Thinelk and the drum was singing for them, and he danced around, and we had many people from different tribes that had traveled to California to be with us to the Red Road to Recovery. But Rick was calling on Creator, asking him to look down on us, to have pity on us, to have mercy on us. And he danced around with that staff, and then he drove it in the ground. And he said, from this day forward, we, the Red Road to Recovery, declare war against alcohol and drugs. And that Red Road to Recovery powwow and encampment went on for 27 years. And 9 of those years I was there driving, setting up. I had 7 teepees, and I had 9 dome tents, and we really called that our Red Road to Recovery camp out. And there was so much happiness and healing and goodness, families. We honored newborn babies into the circle, dancers. It was just so wonderful. And that's a pattern that many people have used it. And they've done wonderful things throughout the country, and United States, Mexico, Canada, South America, all indigenous people having the Red Road to Recovery and declaring war on alcohol and drugs. But I wanted to move to something very significant for the Blackfeet tribe, but it's not only the Blackfeet tribe, it's the Blackfoot Confederacy in Canada. In the late 1800s, our buffalo herds were disappearing, and we all know that history, and we could go over it again at another time. But a group of our Blackfoot Confederacy natives, coupled with some supporters from Canada, came down here to Montana Territory and took a herd of buffalo to Canada, and they put it on Elk Island. And just recent, I think we've had our herd back for 16 years now. And there's a long story in this, but I'm going to focus on the ones that were returned to us from Canada. And they brought 85 yearlings from Canada by truck down to the AMS Ranch, our Blackfeet Ranch, which has been renamed the Buffalo Calf Ranch, Spiritual Calf Ranch. And we had a big ceremony to unload them, and there's been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things. The students from the schools have went out there and been with the buffalo. They had one cow buffalo deserted her calf because they were chasing the herd across a river and up a bank, and the newborn calf couldn't swim the river, and the mother left it behind, and she never came back to reclaim it. But the buffalo man, one of our native guys, and his wife and little boy took that calf and they raised it, and that's just one of the spin-offs. But a year ago, we had a Nina conference, and what has happened with those buffalo, our Blackfeet tribe here in Montana gave 20 buffalo to the Nolan Zoo in Oakland, California. And there was a big ceremony of taking those buffalo down there and establishing them in that zoo. And it's really beautiful. It's in the hills of Oakland. And it's very spacious, they have, of course, they have different animals from all over the world there. But I was, and my daughter, we were able to go there and go out to the Nolan Zoo and see those buffalo. But here, they didn't know that all of those female buffalo were pregnant. And so 12 calves, buffalo calves, were born down there. And we got to see the newborn calves, and they're blondies when they're born. They're really light-haired. And that was really great. But out of that, the director of the Nolan Zoo in Oakland got in touch with all the zoos all over the world. And today, we have a history of about 4 years now, going on 5 years, that these buffalo have been returned to the other zoos. And guess where they have buffalo? In Peru. And they have buffalo in Japan. They have buffalo all over in different countries. They've all entered into this agreement, this association of the bison buffalo, they call them. But when we held the conference here on the Blackfeet Reservation, all of those zoo people came, and all of the parks. That's the other agreement. Every zoo that is located near a national park, the national park has agreed that would be land where the buffalo could roam without being locked up in a zoo. And so they were there too. And we had elders who only speak our language came and told that, and this is the buffalo story, that the buffalo, they knew that they were going to be almost exterminated for never to be here again. And that group that was taken from Montana, from the Blackfeet Reservation to Canada, knew that this was going to happen. But one of the things that the elder said, that he said, it isn't us mortals, us humans, us two-legged humans, that we're returning the buffalo. Guess what? The buffalo knew it was time to come back, and that's why they came back to us. But there's so much in that story. And here, some of them called me Anina, mother of the buffalo. And I have some stories, and Missoula newspaper did a wonderful story on our conference and the return of the buffalo. But we have the return of the buffalo, and we have a beautiful herd of buffalo. And I just want to close this part with, I was a social worker, counselor, gear up counselor, name it, I was it. I had about 6 hats on. But I was at the Heartbeat School, and for 6 years I took students who wanted to go down to the buffalo ranch, and we harvested a buffalo, and these young students learned how to skin the buffalo. We had ceremony before that, and how to take care of the meat, how to take care of the entrails, the hoofs, the horns, the head, everything. They learned all of this. And on the 6th year, it had grown to where within the school district and the students, it was kindergarten to the 12th grade, I seen with my own eyes the 6th grade Native students I felt were the most neglected. They were the least understood by parents, by teachers, by the community, and if they did something bad, oh man, that's how they are. That age, you know, it can only expect bad things from them. I could just hear people saying that, you know. But what I chose was to ask these 6th graders, boys and girls, if they would like to go on a buffalo hunt and learn all about harvesting a buffalo, and to learn the history of our tribe and what the buffalo meant to us. And there's a lot of funny stories. There were real funny stories that happened during that time. And it wasn't the kids, if you want to say, making mistakes. It was the adults. They didn't know any better. You know, you had to teach them to. But it was really a learning experience. But the 6th group that I took was 7 6th grade students, 1 girl, and 6 boys. And here, we didn't have to teach them anything. Guess what? They came from a hunting family. They jumped right in there, and they skinned the buffalo, and they were washing the entrails and cutting it up, and you know, they did everything. And all of the buffalo program, the Blackfoot buffalo program, provided the buffalo and the technical assistance. And we had other groups of people come, you know, and they were just astounded. And again, we took wonderful pictures. But to me, I could stand in front of the classroom and preach to them. I could read to them or have them read books. But I knew in my heart and in my spirit that if they experienced hands-on everything that they needed to learn, that is where it's at. You know, hands-on. Listen to the youth. Listen to them. Guide them. Help them. Let them know that you're behind them. That's how we help our children. And that's how we build our families really strong. And that's the story that the buffalo brought back to us. Anya.
Well, I think that today, as we're visiting with you about, I think the title is like Shared Wisdom. Everybody has their wisdom. And when you decide to, maybe you've been going your own road and you're still on the feather, you haven't fallen off, but sometimes it's time to go back to the center, to the quill, in your own personal feather. And during those times, it's great. Like right now, normally everybody would be gathering in large groups for tomorrow. They would have been already having large gatherings, cultural gatherings. But sometimes you're your own ceremony. So if you are with a small group of people or you are even by yourself, you can make your own ceremony for tomorrow. So there's a lot of ways you can do that. And to really take that opportunity to practice like sort of like a self-awareness tomorrow, to treat yourself really good. Maybe you can't go out and shop for a gift, maybe wrap up a pair of clean socks and give it to yourself as a gift. They're clean. But to really be mindful about, and that word mindful has been like, it's been consumerized, but Indians were also always mindful. That's how we got things. That's how we were able to form a relationship, a compact relationship with Iniyoa, the living buffalo spirit. Our relationship with them was an intentional, through action, through living it out. It wasn't a book that we're going to read someday. It was an action of living your spirit. And so tomorrow, when you are preparing whatever you got, somewhere we got a little gnat flying around the house. Anyway, our brother the gnat. You can be mindful also and intentional with your food. Hopefully you have something to eat, and make the best for yourself if you're by yourself. And you can honor your other relatives. You can honor maybe that, if you want to say, the original woman for our people. You can honor the sun, the constellations. That's what the pandemic has not changed. The sun has risen every day. The moon has completed its cycle. The stars have shifted around as the earth is rotating. They all know what to do in this time. And for us, as human beings, we're going through it. And so make tomorrow, our people here on the reservation, it would have been a day of gathering for one of our ceremonies. And it's also a time when we gather ourselves. So if you think about all the people you were, your infanthood, your young child, your teenager, maybe when you got married, became a parent yourself, maybe you're moving into another hoop as an elder. All of those hoops you can acknowledge tomorrow in an intentional way. And I think that the pandemic has brought to many people you can't help, you should be mindful when you step outside and regroup with the public. And you always take yourself with you. There's that saying, there I went and there I was. And really to be mindful in this time, prepare for the day when you can go more freely around. And I don't know, I know there's been a lot of changes in folks' lives, but I wanted to be intentional today when I was thinking, me, my mother, and then Charlie, who was going to join us, there's been a lot of changes to how people are coping. And so, in the native, I'll speak from my experience. There's a cycle to renewing yourself. So if you're coming up and you're starting to feel fatigued by this whole shared collective experience that we're doing, make a treaty with yourself that you are going to practice that kindness to yourself. Write yourself. Some people never heard kind words spoken to them at different points in their life. Write those kind words. Say those kind words to yourself. Make that treaty with yourself, because we need to renew. The earth has changed. Spring is coming, or if you're in another part of the globe, winter is coming. And prepare for that next phase. So this is really a time also for you to renew this experience. If you're fatigued after, almost doing 60 days under this pandemic, then make sure you get enough sleep. Make sure you stare off into space regularly and not just at a screen. Take a cyber break. because we need to renew and go on. One time, my mom and I were fortunate enough to be among the Lakota people, and at Wombly or outside of Wombly, and this always stuck in my mind whenever I, have to show spiritual endurance or spiritual intentions in a time of chaos, because the drama. I guess if you want to say like drama, sometimes that's people have to give up when they're healing. If it's just moved inside during the pandemic, it's going to bust out. And but I heard this from Dennis Banks, who my mom was friends with for a long, throughout his life, and so he was talking and giving encouragement to people because it was time to call on my mom says, call on your sinew, but call on your endurance, and you have to renew. And he said, we are long haul people. We're not microwave people.
Learn to cook.
We're in it for the multi-generation view. We're thinking 100 years, 1,000 years ahead, and we're drawing on that wisdom that is older than America, older than any geopolitical body right now in North, Central, and South America. And for indigenous people all over the world, our wisdom is older than anything that's existing today. So our wisdom is, we knew we had to renew. You had to catch your breath. And one of my mothers that passed in, my ceremonial mother that passed into the spirit world, one time I went to go see her during an encampment up north, and it was like the 6th day of the encampment. And excuse me, and she had a really pivotal role in guiding people. So it just wasn't her biological children, guiding all the children of the camp. She had a very pivotal role. And so some people just drove up, which is that's what they're doing, their best intention. They drove up and they were looking for the cook tent when they got to the camp. And her tent always had food. She always had food. But they were going, and so they sat down and she fed them, and they were sitting there and they were, really eating because it was good food. And you're in a teepee. When you're in a teepee eating, there should be no complaints. So they were really eating like this. And so some of them, one man asked her, "Aren't you going to have any?" She said, "Oh, no. I'm fasting. This is my 6th day of fasting, sun up to sundown." And that is not a story that's a story to encourage, because she was calling on her stamina. And she told me later, "I'll rest later." So we're in this time where we're coming to a marker, in the non-Indian calendar, we're coming to a marker. So use this opportunity. I'd encourage you to renew. And I know my mom has another shared thing, and I got to check the clock because we don't want to go over. So she's going to share now.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, I know all of you are out there, and I'm reading some of your comments, and I really like that. And to be able to reach you through this new technology, and the changing of this coronavirus, what it has done to us, it's canceled Native Wellness Institute's conference all over the world, and how do we rebound? How do we readjust? How do we learn from our indigenous ways from the past, how we could deal with this today, and I just wish that I could give each one of you a hug and a kiss So here's my kiss and my hug to you. And I'm glad that you have joined us, and I'm glad that Native Wellness Institute has chosen to make this Power Hour, and it's really been significant. And building, many people are joining, and it's a guided direction, and it's an answer to our prayers. But I wanted to say that we as Native people, we all have our story. We all have our journey, and when our Sundances, our Okons, returned to the Blackfeet people in Montana, and I know many tribes across all the way down to South America, and Mexico, Canada, across the land, New Zealand, Australia, they all drew back their old ceremonies that, for whatever the government policy was, buried them or terminated them, or we weren't to speak our language and all that. There is a whole revolution by Native people of being so proud of yourself and thankful that Creator is watching over us, blesses us every day with many gifts and all His powers, that we have a path to walk. We have a red road to walk that is there, and again, and back to Rick, I remember him saying, that red road is there, you can walk it, and for whatever the reason, sometimes you fall off of it, Guess what? You can get the hell back up and get back on it, Stay on the red road, stay focused on the beliefs that your tribe has, your family has, your community has. And when, for me, when the Sundance came back and Okon, my heart and my spirit and my mind was jubilant. I was so happy because that's exactly what I needed at that time in my life, And I haven't had an easy life, I could sit here and boo-hoo-hoo all day long about trials and tribulations that I've had. But I set those aside, and I stay focused on the red road, and I stay focused on what makes me feel good and how I know that I can help my family and my community, and that's where I stay. But I just wanted to share, I don't know what our time is like, but right now, the Glacier Reporter interviewed me for my picture, and my story is in the Glacier Reporter this week. And he was asking me what I'm doing during this stay at home, I call it stay at home, your wonderful home, your beautiful home. I don't call it lockdown or all that kind of stuff that they're saying. But I told him that I have a lot of hobbies that I do, and I really love to cook. Anyone who knows me has ate some of my good food. We just made a really good food yesterday. And I shared it with my sister-in-law and her mother for Mother's Day. I sent them a package. And my other daughter, Kathy, took it over there today for tomorrow for their Mother's Day, But I just feel like I read good books. I subscribe to really good magazines, that talks about all the environmental damage that's done, but also all the movements of resolving the damage to our environment, and we're going to be part of it. We have to play our part. And one of the magazines, and the other is, the TV. Of course, we all have TV, and I really like stories about our people of long ago, the series that they have but also I really appreciate other cultures, and I like to see what their government done, you know. And right now I'm watching La Fentai, and it's Istanbul, Turkey, and it's the Ottoman dynasty, and it's a season with 62 episodes, and guess where I'm on 60. But seeing how these people eat and grow food, make their products, run their government, family structure, I really appreciate it. And of course, there's really bad guys in there, you know, bad women too. Okay, so but I wanted to say that in March, I took all my flower pots and I put black dirt in there, and I put all the seeds to bloom. And right now, growing in my windows is all my tomatoes and my hollyhocks and sunflowers. The sunflowers are going to be 5 to 7 feet tall, but they're all crying for me to have their leaves against the window pane, wanting to be outside. And today I am going to go gather black dirt up in the mountains, and I'm going to fill my flower boxes because I put buffalo manure in there first. Now I'm going to put black dirt on there, and I'm going to put my plants in there. And I just love my plants. I kiss them, and I sing to them, and they bless me.
So I think today, both on behalf of my mother, Betty Cooper, and me, Lori NewBreast, and we'd like to thank the Native Wellness Institute and also the Noise Foundation. And please tune in tomorrow around the same time for folks. And if you want to share this later on, you can because it's on the Native Wellness Institute. But I just want to say, you know, prepare for your role in the future. That's starting now. It's through this incubation period that we're having. Prepare for your journey in the future. Always move forward. So with that, my mom is going to move forward to collecting her black dirt, and I'm going to move forward to tending my high maintenance res dogs. And have a great day. Love all of you, and look forward to hearing your stories too. Bye-bye.
Bye.